Hey everyone, welcome to Adventures in Everyday Cooking, where every day can be an adventure in your kitchen. My name is Heather, and today we are in my new kitchen in Texas. So, for those of you that don't know, I have been transitioning from California to Texas, and it has taken a full 2 months from the time that we sold our house to this moment. And it has been a whirlwind of events. However, you know that I have been in my friends and family's kitchens, and I have been having so much fun with them. And I'm going to continue to do that because I have tons of friends and family here in this state. But I am so excited to be back in my kitchen and back sharing one of my recipes with you. So this first recipe that I've decided to share in my new kitchen is actually from Texas itself. My grandmother served this Southern chicken and dumplings recipe to me years ago, and I loved it so very much that she wrote it down, and I kept that card with her handwritten notes on it for years, and I never made it because I wasn't really into cooking as a teenager. And then as I became an adult, I think I kind of misplaced it or shuffled it in papers. Well, a few years ago, I found that recipe again, and I was so excited to make it because you guys, you have never seen Southern chicken and dumplings like this ever before in your life. Instead of those blobs of dumplings, we're making a noodle, and it's gonna be so easy. The hardest part is going to be getting your hands a little messy, but I have a little trick for you if you have a food processor. So are you ready for this adventure? Let's get started in the new kitchen. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna wanna do is get our water and broth into our pot. So what I have in front of me is water and broth already measured out. It's about 10 cups, or it's 3 cans and then enough water to equal 10 cups. So we're gonna get that right into the pot. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add all of our carrots in, and we're gonna add in our 2 pounds of chicken. Now, we do not want to cut it up. And the reason is it's gonna take about 20 minutes for that to cook. And so I really want to be able to not overcook the chicken. And you'll know when the chicken is done, everything else is done as well. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. All right, I'm gonna set it on 20 minutes. And then what we're going to do is something kind of weird. So here I have a mesh bag. You can also use cheesecloth, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put my 2 stalks of celery and my onion and my bay leaves. We're gonna put all of that into the bag, and we're gonna cinch it shut. And the reason is we're gonna want to discard this after our soup is done. So I'm just going to break apart these onions a little bit so that the onions cook well in there. And then I'm just gonna drop it right in my pot. Now I'm going to add my chicken bouillon, my salt and my pepper, and it's chicken bouillon granules, very important. Parsley, thyme, and some poultry seasoning. And I'm just gonna give that a good mix. Let's make sure that bag stays under. All right, looks great. Okay, we're nearly done. Now we're gonna let that simmer for about 20 minutes or until the chicken is cooked through. All right, and while that's cooking, we're gonna go ahead and get our dumplings ready to go. Now, as I mentioned, these dumplings are something you've probably never seen before. In fact, they kind of look like noodles, and you'll hear me call them noodles several times, I'm sure. So let's get those dumplings ready to go. So like I mentioned in the intro, I was gonna give you a trick for how you can do this and not get your hands all dirty. I'm gonna use my food processor for this, fitted with a dough blade. If you don't have a food processor with a dough blade, you might be able to use just your regular food processor blade. But since I have the dough blade, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shot because I absolutely hate getting Crisco. Yes, I said it. We're gonna use Crisco all over my hands. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get in 3 cups of all-purpose flour into our food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor, you can just use a pastry cutter. That will work just fine. You can also just use your hands. So I have put it in a bowl and kind of pushed it together until it's a fine crumbly mixture, and then we go from there. Next, we're gonna add in our salt, and we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of Crisco. This is vegetable Crisco, and 1/2 cup is about half of this this little tub right here. And I'm just gonna add it in kind of little chunks, only because I want it interspersed through my flour mixture. And like I mentioned, I do not like getting my hands dirty with Crisco, so this works out for me really well when I leave it in the little package. Now, I know some people will be like, hey, can I use butter instead of Crisco? Well, probably. Will it turn out the same? No, it will not. Here in the South, everybody uses Crisco for their baked goods. It's a true story and it is delicious. So let's get on our lid and we're just gonna pulse this until a fine kind of sandy powder forms. All right, see that? So there's a kind of like it almost looks like the butter is everywhere. And then we are gonna take our little spatula or something and we're gonna bring the dry flour in just a little bit and we're gonna give it another couple pulses. Perfect. Next, we're gonna add water 1 tablespoon at a time until this pulls into a dough, and just until it pulls into a dough. Once it pulls into a dough, we're gonna get it out there, we're gonna work it on the counter, and then we're gonna roll it out. So we're gonna do the pulse thing again. So I'm not sure how much it takes. I have about 4 ounces here. It could take about 8 ounces. 8 ounces is a cup of water. But I'm pretty sure the most it's ever taken is about 8 ounces. But you just want to watch it until you have the right consistency. You don't want it too sticky. Now, if it gets too sticky, you can always add in a little bit more flour, but just watch it and it shouldn't go over. All right, halfway through my first 4 ounces, I'm gonna go ahead and take my spatula and I'm going to get that dry flour off the sides, just so that I can help it along. And then we're gonna add the water again. Oh yeah, this is looking great. It may actually take more than that 4 ounces. I feel like it's still a bit drier than it could be. Usually though, it only takes about half of a cup of water, which is 4 ounces. So when you see it kind of pulling into this that can be squished together, it is ready to go. So it didn't take indeed that 4 ounces. So we're just going to dump it on our counter and we're gonna bring it together the rest of the way. Now, there'll be some people who are like, well, Heather, why didn't you just finish it in your food processor? I really don't wanna overwork that gluten, because when you overwork that gluten, it's too chewy and you want a bite to your noodle or your dumpling, but you don't want it to be disgusting. So I'm just gonna knead it for a second on my pastry mat here. And I'm gonna knead in all of the little bits of flour and, Crisco and all the other good stuff that is just on this board. And it's only gonna take a minute, 30 seconds. It won't be long. And if you feel like your dough is still a little crumbly at this point, you can add a sprinkle of water. And when I say a sprinkle, please only sprinkle, because if you do any more than a sprinkle, you're gonna have to add a whole bunch more flour and then your salt ratio is gonna be off a little bit and you definitely don't wanna do that. So I'm feeling like this is doing good. That is doing well. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this in half and I'll leave half over at the side. And then we're gonna work this one a little bit more and then we're gonna roll it out. Now I got my French rolling pin as well as my baker's roller, only because I can't remember which one I prefer using for this dough, because it's not like a bread dough, there's no yeast in it, and it doesn't really bounce back, so I can't remember which is best. So I just got them both out to save time. And you'll know it's ready to be rolled out when it starts to get very smooth. Now it's still gonna look a little bit crumbly, and that's okay. As it sits here and hydrates, it will get even better. I think it still needs a little bit of working. And the reason I say that is when I push down, when it kind of flattened like that and there was some little cracks in it, that means it's not completely hydrated properly yet, and it just needs a few more works. So maybe another 10 seconds. All right, I feel like that is just fine. Now you can see the difference in these two doughs just a little bit, the one that I worked a little more and the one that I didn't. It's just a little bit, it kind of feels a little bit like Play-Doh. So next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna flour up our rolling pin just a little bit. If you don't have a baker's mat, you may need to flour your surface and go from there, but I really suggest everyone investing in a baker's mat or a pastry mat, I guess it would be called. They really are fantastic. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to roll it out to a very thin measurement. I don't even know what measurement it would be. Probably a 1/4 inch or less, maybe 1/8 of an inch. See how this dough is not sticking to anything? That means it's the perfect amount of hydration. So if your dough is sticky, definitely add some more flour. You should be able to pick it up and turn it over, roll it out some more. And it doesn't matter if it's a circle or a square or a rectangle or a triangle, because we are gonna cut this up and it's gonna become our dumplings. It's the craziest, most beautiful thing you will ever see. All right, when your dough reaches about this thickness, which is it's like 3 to 4 centimeters-ish, give or take, we're gonna cut it. I'm going to put a cutting board underneath because the dough is hardy. You can pick it up, you can move it around. So now I don't have to worry about cutting my pastry mat. So we are gonna cut it into noodles, kind of like this. Now, it is important that your noodles are not super big because you want them to be bite-sized and easy. I'm calling them noodles, but they're really dumplings because you'll see they're gonna puff up. Oh my gosh, they're the most amazing thing you'll ever see in your life. And you can see they're irregular. Some of them are a little thicker at the end, some of them are a little thinner. You will not care when they go into your mouth. Oftentimes when I make this recipe, I will actually double the dumplings for the soup because my family really loves the dumpling part of it a little more than everything else. But you do you, try it the first time with the regular amount of dumplings. And this recipe serves about 4 adults. Okay, so here I have them all cut up. And now I'm gonna just run my knife kind of over the middle a couple times to cut them into bite-sized pieces. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna sprinkle just over it a little bit, not a lot. You're like a light dusting, an angel dusting over the top of these noodles. And we're just gonna make sure they're all individual and none are stuck together because I might have, not ran my knife because I'm trying to be gentle. That's perfect. Okay, I'm gonna set those off to the side. And then we are going to work on the second dough. So we're gonna do the exact same thing and like this, and here we go. Now we have all of our dumplings ready to go in our soup as soon as our soup is to the next stage. Okay, we'll be right back when that soup has come to its 20-minute mark and I'll show you what to do. Be back. All right, the time has come to get the chicken out. So what I'm gonna do is let's take out our bag of veggies first. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let that drain just a little bit and I'm gonna stick it right in here. Now, the first time I made this, my husband asked me, why are you throwing away the veggies? I want to eat that. I like celery and onion. Trust me, you don't want it in this soup. So now we're just going to go ahead and fish out our chicken and try not to get any carrots with it. Okay, once all the chicken is out, we're going to start getting in our dumplings. And it's going to take about 10 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and start dropping them in. And we'll give it a stir every once in a while too, just to make sure it's not sticking. Okay, now we're gonna cut this chicken into bite-sized pieces. All right, look at that. See how those are plumping up? Oh my gosh, my stomach is growling. Okay, we still have about 6 more minutes until that's ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover this with a bowl to keep it warm, because once that's done, it's time to eat. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, the 10 minutes is up, and you'll know your dumplings are ready when they're all floating to the top. Now, if you decide to taste one of these, just remember that the saltiness that is in the broth is actually going to play into those noodles. So you're gonna feel like, oh my goodness, I need to salt those a little more. If you do, you will throw off the whole soup. So just keep that in mind. Now we're gonna add back in the chicken, and then we're gonna turn off the heat. All right, I'm gonna give it one quick stir, and then off the heat goes. So turn it off because the chicken is already cooked. Now it's time to serve. All right, we're gonna take a soup ladle, and we are going to look at that. Do you see how beautiful that is? Oh my goodness. And we're just going to dish some up right in here. Oh my goodness. Don't forget the broth, because you will want to drink this after you are done with it. Get as big or as small of a helping as you want. And you guys, can you even? And for this one, you're gonna need a spoon and a fork, because the spoon is so you can get some of that yummy broth, which I'm gonna try first. Oh my goodness, that is so good. If you have a friend feeling sick, just make her this broth. It's amazing. And then the fork for everything else. It's like we need a spork for this meal. Oh, everything about my grandmother's Southern chicken and dumplings makes me leap for joy on the inside and the outside. It is so good. You can taste every single one of the spices and the herbs, and that pepper is so good. The chicken is tender. The dumplings are amazing. If you have never had chicken and dumplings like this is the recipe you're gonna need to try. Oh gosh, what else can I say about this recipe? I just know that it is so good that I have made it 3 times in the last 2 months. Once for my in-laws, once for my sister and my brother-in-law, and once for us just now. And I think I might have made it just before we made the decision and pulled the trigger to move. So 4 times in the last 2.5 months, I'll take it. It is so good. It is so good. And I know summer's coming, but there's still some cold days. You'll still be able to do this. And because it's a Southern treat, I knew I had to share it with you. All right, you guys. Well, if you enjoyed that video, give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. I do videos several times a week, and right now, I'm in the new kitchen, and I'm so excited about what adventures wait for us. If you have any ideas for me, and you know of some Southern treats that you want to see me try, leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, I'm just gonna make up my own adventures and bring you along if you'll have me. I hope we'll see you again on the next adventure. All right, you guys, bye.